everybody's concerned about what the Detroit Lions do next, because I think everybody was comfortable with where the cornerback with the secondary and believed that largely Brad was going to cook something up there. But one place that for several years now fans have been a little underwhelmed is the defensive line. And that's where people have seen a lot of different names getting signed here. A lot of different players that we've conjectured about, a lot of different players that we've talked about, a lot of different players we've seen the chat family talk about getting signed, going to different teams. And now the Detroit Lions are in a position where not only is this happening, but they cut one of their own.
Yeah.
Za'Darius Smith.
Yeah.
What's going on next?
Yeah, so the edge rusher position is one that I see in the chat a lot. I see it throughout all of the shows. What are the Lions going to do? Are they done? People agree, disagree with Marcus Davenport being re-signed for a team-friendly deal, but still being re-signed, and Za'Darius Smith being cut. Regardless of the money that it saves, it's certainly something that is a bit of a head-scratcher, and I think it surprised us all. And what makes that even more, I don't know, what makes, I think, a lot of us, and myself included, a little bit more anxious about it is that a lot of these guys that we've talked about are no longer available. Obviously, we talked about Myles Garrett. Josh Sweat signed with the Cardinals for a 4-year, $76 million. Chase Young re-signed with the Saints on a $17 million AAV. Dayo Odeyingbo, he was the Colts edge rusher last year, signed with the Bears, so they're adding as well $16 million AAV. Harold Landry, who I don't know. I don't necessarily think it is a scheme fit, but still was productive last year. $14.5 million AAV. Malcolm Kuntz, a guy that I talked about as maybe a potential Moneyball signing, re-signed with the Raiders for $12 million. That's actually, I think, a pretty damn good deal for them. Pat Jones, $10 million AAV with the Panthers. He had a good year with the Vikings last year, but he also played with Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, so I'd take that with a grain of salt. So right now, that leaves the edge rushing pool not looking as plentiful as it has before. But one name stands out to me as somebody who not only I think the Lions should attempt to get, but I think that he fits their exact type of archetype right now, and that is Demarcus Lawerence. Demarcus Lawerence, and his average annual salary calculated market value is $12 million. The contract that Spotrac basically estimates he will get is 2 years at 24, and I would give that to Demarcus Lawerence. Partially, the one thing, and I joked about it yesterday, but I won't do it again, Demarcus Lawerence is coming off an injury, so he is a bit depreciated, and in 2021, he missed more than half the games due to injury as well.
Brad Holmes guy.
Hey, but what?
I'll do it for you.
He has a type,
right?
Stick gave me a lot of crap on E&E yesterday for that, but anywho, that's neither here nor there. But in 2022 and 2023, what Demarcus Lawerence was for the Cowboys is exactly what I would like him to be for the Detroit Lions. He wasn't a number one edge rusher, but what he was as good as a bookend as you could possibly be. And his edge rusher one, of course, was Micah Parsons. And we suspect that Aiden Hutchinson and Micah Parsons are going to be in that same tier for a long time, just elite edge rushers. And Demarcus Lawerence, what he does well is he gets pressure on the quarterback. His sack numbers aren't going to wow you, but he is also very, very good against the run. He always has been. It's been his calling card. It's what the Lions really value as well, I think even more than other teams. He's also a 4-3 guy. He is a big defensive end. You would never mistake him for an outside linebacker like how Harold Landry is more in a 3-4. Doesn't seem like a scheme fit. Demarcus Lawerence is a perfect scheme fit, and he is exactly what this team needs. And at $12 million a year, considering what some of these edge rushers are getting, that is a freaking bargain. And with the Lions, I actually think it's realistic. That's who I personally want. I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on it, you in the chat as well, or if you guys have another name in mind. But if you walk out of this free agency with DJ Reed and Demarcus Lawerence, I am feeling really, really good. Not as good as I would be with the huge splashes. A lot of them are no longer available anymore, but still, I would be thanking Brad Holmes for that one.
Yeah, and I see Rowan in the chat say I can see them signing Lawerence, and I've seen people relatively comfortable with that, especially knowing we need someone. I'm hoping that Za'Darius Smith is a candidate to be re-signed because we do know that there was a benefit to the Lions cap space and their cap for even into 2026 by releasing Za'Darius Smith when they did. But part of me wonders what Brad Holmes is seeing in this draft too. Part of me, just my mind goes there. When you look at the cap, when you look at the longevity, it feels like it's time to find another young stud or two on that defensive line, and maybe one, if you think that can go out there and produce year one. We've known this to be true. Brad Holmes has gone out there and every draft and found starters. And that's why I'm wondering, and part of me seeing how all this is kind of shaping up to this point, if he has somebody like that in mind. I know that one of those players, a couple of those players, you guys have already profiled. Yeah. But there are people out there who do believe that a guy, like if they could get an opportunity to draft a guy like a Landon Jackson, they just believe that he's going to be an explosive type of player alongside some of the others that you already have on this line. But then you always go back to, do you need somebody proven, or can Brad Holmes really strike, have a strike of that genius kind of luck that we've seen some of these other teams have with these young edge rush, pass rush?
Well, the correct answer to me is both. I think with a Demarcus Lawerence and a draft pick, you give yourself a perfect opportunity, because Demarcus Lawerence, he is a little long in the tooth. He's in his early 30s, and the deal that they talk about giving him on a spot track is, 2 years, $24 million. Chase, what do you got?
I know a Demarcus that came from the Cowboys that got paired with a number 2 overall edge rusher that ended up helping them win a Super Bowl. His name was Demarcus Ware on the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, different Demarcus. Yeah.
But
Just
Demarcus
saying,
Lawrence is really
script
damn
before.
good, though. Obviously, he wasn't what Demarcus Ware was, either at his peak or even at that point in a Demarcus Ware's career. But if you talk about Aiden Hutchinson and Demarcus Lawrence, I can't think of really another edge rushing duo off the top of my head that's more formidable. I think that's be really damn formidable.
I think it would be.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree with him. Like, if it all fits, as much depth as you can have on a defensive line, do it. Give me 4 edges and Demarcus Lawrence.
No, and you best believe Brad Holmes, like I said, similar to 2023, I can expect to see a load up at the defensive end position this year, based on, just some moves they'll make in free agency, and they can also go in the draft with pretty much their whole draft arsenal and be able to go grab a guy. So not really worried about that. I know he'll add to that position through the draft, but Demarcus Lawrence would be a great fit here, at least on paper he would be. The injuries do concern you in recent years, and he is also coming from a dumpster fire of a situation over there with Jerry and the boys. So you just wonder. Yeah,
them boys.
No, I'm just saying.
Stop having
boys.
like Jerry Jones derangement syndrome. He was paired with Micah Parsons for 2 years on a playoff team. I get it that organizationally there was rot, but as a player, I mean, he had it kind of made for a couple of years.
Yeah, he did, but it didn't really account for anything.
I understand, but he was good. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
what did DJ Reed win? And we're blowing wads over him as we should.
I understand. The only point I was trying to make is, coming from that kind of locker room culture and situation, you do just wonder, can he fit and mold to this Lions locker room? I believe he can. I'm not, necessarily worried about that end of it, but he would be a good fit here if you can get him for the right price. But I will raise you another name who would probably be along the same price line, and that is Matt Judon. Matt Judon is somebody I know he had a down year last year with the Atlanta Falcons, but they just had a down year in general as a franchise, pretty poorly run over there. But he is somebody
underwhelmed.
Yeah,
they didn't meet expectation at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. But he is somebody around the same age range that can come in and pretty much fill that same role. And I think that maybe he would be just slightly a better fit. But I'm not opposed to a Demarcus Lawrence as well.
Okay.
I mean, the only problem with a Matthew Judon, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
is
you good.
You're good.
He wasn't just bad last year. He was horrific. He was borderline unplayable at times. And I'm somebody who was bullish on the Falcons, and one of the reasons was because they got Matthew Judon. And I'm not saying he's going to be like that for the rest of his career, but I don't know. I definitely don't feel as high as on him as I did. But at the same time, before I pass it back to you, Koolaid, his calculated market value, estimated according to SpotTrack, is $4.2 million.
I might take a risk on it.
So,
just saying.
And DJ Reed for the price of Carlton Davis
annually. Matt Judon and a DJ Reed for the price of Carlton Davis. I mean, rather that rather that than a nothing. But honestly, and call me crazy, I would rather pay Demarcus Lawerence an AAV of 12 than Matt Judon of an AAV of 4. I think that Demarcus Lawerence is better right now and a better fit. Me personally, although I get your argument for Judon.
Man, and in the draft, man, obviously opportunities to be able to go to the draft and absolutely have a field day. Do you believe that there's a player worth trading up? Because I also know this. Some people, they're not going to let go of the dream of potentially Trey Hendrickson. We know that he is effectively asked to be traded, and that the Bengals are going to actually grant that with Myles Garrett. When it first was talked about that he was, when it was first reported that he wanted to be traded, the Browns came out instantly and said absolutely not. And we were going to wait to see what was going on, and a lot of speculation went, and they made him the highest paid player. But with Trey, we know that this is a situation where he's going to be traded. And at first, it came out that the Bengals were looking for a low second, early third. Now the reports are that Trey Hendrickson's camp says they know that they can get a first-round pick for the Bengals. So I wonder what's changed. I wonder who they've been in contact with. And I do, obviously the question is, when you talk about the draft, are you using your assets at a potential like that, or is that one probably dead in the water?
I mean, I've always been a proponent of if you need to sacrifice a first for Trey Hendrickson, I would do it. And
you
obviously,
said that day one.
Obviously, there's the caveat of a Trey Hendrickson coming off of leading the NFL in sacks, coming off of having 35 combined sacks in 2 seasons, probably wants a new deal. So that changes things a little bit. But first round, I don't understand why the Bengals were ever asking for a second and third, because Trey Hendrickson is good. Trey Hendrickson is a monster. Trey Hendrickson, like a lot of the other players that we talk about in terms of the cream of the crop, is on a gold jacket trajectory, whether it sounds kind of funny to say or not, because he's had 2 other seasons in which he's had, I believe, at least 13.5 sacks. The man is elite. The man would make, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, just in theory, I think he would also make the Aiden Hutchinson, Trey Hendrickson edge rushing duo, maybe the best we've ever seen, and certainly the best since Von Miller and Demarcus Ware, the team that had the last truly elite defense in the NFL, and they carried Peyton Manning's corpse to a Super Bowl. So there's reasons why we talk about this stuff a lot.
Yeah, definitely, and that's where it's going to be interesting to see what Brad does. I'm just kind of in this trust in Brad zone. The first big domino to fall, the DJ Reed one, is one that you're definitely going to be excited about. But you want to see them make some sure improvement on a defensive line. It's just we went from hoping that they could go out there and get that surefire starter that can make a big impact, and that's where I definitely understand where you're going with Demarcus. But I want to see them. I want to really see them go out there and potentially take a swing in this draft at a player that they believe can hit the ground running.
We'll see. Hopefully they find themselves a Jared Verse type, but. We'll see. They'd probably have to trade up for that in terms of that type of productive right away, but they've got that available to them as well, and we've seen it with Jamison Williams, with Terrion Arnold. If they eye a guy that they like, they will trade up. I personally, if I'm trading up for anyone, it would be Kenneth Grant, but we can continue to have that discussion as the draft continues to get closer.
Now.
Hey,
I know, right?
That's not a crazy Michigan slappy opinion. That's
Not at all.
Spenny would do that. Not a fan of Michigan.
Who would you trade up for, KG? Is there anybody in this draft you would trade up for?
James Pierce Jr.
Ooh,
That's right.
I don't hate that either.
Yeah.
I don't hate that either.
Man. Anybody for you?
Off the top of my head, I can't say. I was going to say, I don't think you got to trade up for James Pierce Jr. There's some character concerns coming out about that
True,
guy.
but
He might fall out of the top 60.
And no, I get that part of it, but I promise you, he will not be around. By the time the Lions.
No, that's got.
We have a good locker room vibe.
No, that's got Eagles taking him at the 32nd pick, like written all over it.
And him being great. No!
Talent supersedes that. If it
absolutely.
was something where it was an off the field issue, then it'd be different. But it's just attitude problems.
Yes,
man.
and of course we know about James Pierce's character concerns. To circle back to somebody that I obviously am very high on, but that man performed on the field.
Yeah,
he
fuck
was elite 2 years in a row, and he's got the combine. He showed out at the combine. He ran a faster 40 time than Christian freaking McCaffrey and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
If the Lions have him available, it's a pick type situation.
I would agree with that.
Guess who else had character issues? Randy fucking Moss. And we will forever live that down, bro. So it's just you got to be able to make moves like this and trust your culture, but it's yet to be seen.
And even somebody, and I'm not trying to say that we should have drafted him by any means, but Jalen Carter. He worked out for Philadelphia, but Jahmyr Gibbs worked out for us. But the point is that talent supersedes everything that you do off the field. But JB Smoove.
Yeah.
What's
Who
up?
you trading up for, man?
Well, obviously, Abdul Carter or Jalen Walker out of Georgia. Those are my two. If you're going to jump up to get someone at edge, then yeah, those are my two.
You would have to jump into the top 5.
I'll do whatever it takes. I mean, you missed out on Jalen Carter before, so don't mess out on that again.
Remember, I'm no huge Penn State guy, although I think I am more than most Michigan fans. But Abdul Carter,
they produce the defense.
He gives me some type of feelings. I will just say that. Talk about erotic dreams. Erotic dreams. But before we go to the break, because we have to talk about the wings, unfortunately, you said it, Chase. Easy saying it as well. They're saying that Pierce could drop into the 60s. So, man.
I don't believe that.
It's not just
he's too talented.
It's both of you guys.
But
so
if he just drops, if he's on the board at 28.
Yeah, I read an article about that.
All right,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely. But I doubt he even makes it that far. He's still a
it.
top 15, top 20 pick to me.
Do you pick him at 28?
It depends on who else is available. Would I take Darius Alexander or James Pierce? That would be one where I would be just, I don't know,
man.
until
It's James Pierce.
That's
bro.
fine.
I'm
That's
sorry.
fine. Like Derek,
that speed off the
Yeah.
edge would be amazing with Aiden Hutchinson. What are we talking about?
Brad Holmes is probably having these same thoughts, man. I'm sitting here like, I think he's about to cook something in this drive.
At the end of the day, though, if James Pierce was picked at 28, he would be, out of all the players who are realistically available, maybe my second or third choice. I mean, if Kenneth Grant's available, I'd rather have him. If Darius Alexander, it would be a toss-up. But James Pierce Jr., I mean, he's a very, I would say, high ceiling, but with the character, maybe the character issues are just unfounded. Maybe Tennessee was just a bad locker room fit for him, but you know where Tennessee was not a bad fit? On the effing field. He balled out. So 28, I would definitely pick James Pierce Jr.
Goodness gracious, man.
He won't make it out the first. I promise you. Like, he's a first round.
I would agree with that, but the fact that Chase and Easy are talking about it is interesting. If he gets to 60,